Okay, so ready to dive into some mysteries, some real-life mysteries.
Absolutely. Always up for a good mystery.
The kind that make you kind of question everything, and leave you wanting more.
Yeah, the ones that stick with you.
Exactly. Okay, so we're talking about like a recluse in the Canadian wilderness, a secret life hidden in plain sight, and even, get this, a mummy found in a mountain.
Wow. Those are some headlines.
Right. These are all stories, by the way, that you, our amazing listeners, were really curious about. So we heard you.
Well, let's dig in then. What do we got first?
First up, we're going way back, like all the way back to 1931 to the frozen wilds of Canada.
Okay, setting the scene already. I like it.
Right. Imagine this. A man so desperate to disappear that he would brave like the harshest conditions imaginable just to live off the grid.
Sounds intense. What are we talking about here?
This is Albert Johnson, or at least that's the name he gave. He's known as the Mad Trapper of Rat River.
The Mad Trapper. Okay, I'm intrigued. What's so mad about him?
It's his story, his whole vibe. It's like he embodies this deep human desire to just vanish, to shed your past and become someone new. But Johnson, he takes it to the extreme.
What do you
This
mean?
isn't just like changing your name on Facebook. This is about erasing any trace of yourself, disappearing completely.
Okay, so we've got a guy who wants to vanish. How does that turn into the Mad Trapper, though?
Well, he goes to ground in this tiny settlement in the Yukon, builds himself a cabin miles from anyone, and he's completely silent, like through this entire ordeal, never utters a word to anyone.
Not a single word.
Not a whisper, not a plea, nothing. Most folks trying to lay low, they might slip up, give you something.
Right, even accidentally.
Exactly. But Johnson, he's like a ghost, just a whisper in the wilderness.
So how did the authorities even catch wind of him if he's so good at disappearing?
Well, it starts to unravel with, you guessed it, local trappers. They keep finding their traps tampered with. And these are their livelihoods we're talking about.
Yeah, that'll cause some friction.
You can practically feel the tension, that sense of suspicion tightening its grip on the community. And when the Royal Canadian Mounted Police finally get involved, bam! Johnson fires a shot through his cabin door, wounding an officer.
Oh, wow. So much for laying low.
Right. Things escalate very quickly. Suddenly, he's transformed from a recluse to a full-blown fugitive.
And then what? They go after him.
Oh, absolutely. And what follows is like something out of a movie. Johnson alone in the dead of the Yukon winter, running from a posse.
This guy's seriously committed to this vanishing act.
Right, and the thing is, he survives out there for weeks.
Weeks in the Yukon winter. How is that even possible?
I know, sub-zero temperatures, no real supplies, evading experience trackers. It's mind-boggling. This guy was either incredibly lucky or incredibly skilled at wilderness survival. Probably both.
Yeah, no kidding. So how does it end? Do they ever catch him?
They do corner him on the frozen Eagle River, and it ends in a final fatal standoff.
So that's it then. Case closed.
Well, sort of. The Mad Trapper story ends there. But the mystery, oh, that's just getting started. They could never figure out his true identity.
Wait, so Albert Johnson wasn't even his real name?
Nope. Albert Johnson was a total fabrication. This whole persona, this whole life he built for himself. It was a ghost story from the start.
You're kidding. And they never figured out who he really was.
This is where it gets even wilder. Fast forward to 2007, they exhume the body, run some DNA tests, and guess what? They find out he likely came from either the Midwestern United States or Scandinavia.
Get out of here. What was someone from the Midwest or Scandinavia doing all the way up in the Yukon in the 1930s pretending to be someone else?
Right. It's like the mystery just got a whole lot bigger. It makes you wonder, was he running from something specific? Or did he just like crave that absolute anonymity to disappear completely?
Almost a century later, and we're still trying to piece together the puzzle of his life. It's kind of amazing.
It is. And I think that's exactly why we're so drawn to these unsolved mysteries. It's the unknown, the what ifs, the possibility of uncovering some hidden truth that just keeps us hooked.
Absolutely. There's just something so fascinating about a good mystery, especially one that spans decades and has so many twists and turns. It makes you wonder what else is out there, just waiting to be uncovered.
Okay, so from the frozen wilderness of the Yukon, let's shift gears a bit to a different kind of mystery.
All right, I'm game. What have we got?
This one hits a little closer to home, It reminds us that everyone has secrets. Some are just bigger than others, I guess.
Oh, for sure. Those skeletons in the closet, right?
Exactly. And this is the story of Erika Kennedy. And that name turned out to be as much of a fabrication as Albert Johnson.
Oh, wow. Okay. Starting to see the connection here. So who was Lori Erika Kennedy, really?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's a case that really makes you think about identity, about the families we make for ourselves and the ones, well, the ones we leave behind.
Okay, I'm really curious now. Lay it on me.
So picture this. 2004, Longview, Texas. Lori Erika Kennedy marries a guy named Blake. They build a life together, even have a daughter. Seems ordinary enough, right?
Yeah, sounds pretty typical so far.
Except Lori, she's incredibly guarded about her past. And I'm not talking about your average, I'd rather not talk about high school kind of guarded. This was different, like a deep-seated refusal to discuss anything before 1988.
Yeah, okay. A little strange for sure. But maybe she had her reasons, right?
Maybe. But it was more than that. It was like she had built a wall around that part of her life. And tragically, it seems that wall, it kept her from reaching out to anyone when things with Blake started to fall apart.
Oh no.
He moves out, files for divorce, and then on Christmas Eve of 2010, Lori, she pulls into her in-laws' driveway and takes her own life.
Oh, that's awful. Just a heartbreaking situation all around.
Absolutely, and you can only imagine the grief her family must have been going through. But that grief, it would soon turn into just complete and utter bewilderment.
Why? What happened?
Because going through Lori's things after her death, her family finds a lockbox. And what's inside? Well, it changes everything.
Okay, now I really want to know what was in the lockbox.
Documents. Proof that Lori Erika Kennedy didn't exist before 1988. We're not talking just a name change here. This was a completely new identity.
Whoa, she just invented a whole new life for herself.
It seems that way. Back in '88, she somehow got a hold of a birth certificate that belonged to a girl named Becky, who had died years earlier. Used it to get new ID, reinvents herself as Lori. It was incredibly thorough, like meticulously planned out.
Wow, that takes some serious commitment. But the question is why? Why go through all that trouble to erase your past and start over? What was she running from?
Right. And if that wasn't enough, there are a few other things in the lockbox. A slip of paper that says North Hollywood Police, 402 months, and another one with just Ben Perkins, attorney on it.
What, like clues? Did she want to be found?
It's like she wanted to leave breadcrumbs, but not make them easy to follow. Were these potential links to her past life? Or were they deliberate misdirection? It's impossible to say for sure.
Man, that's frustrating. So what happened? Did the lockbox lead anywhere?
The case went cold for years, and then a Social Security investigator teams up with a genealogist. They start digging into her DNA, tracing it back to a family in Pennsylvania.
Okay, and don't keep me hanging.
The DNA confirmed it. Lori Erika Kennedy was their missing daughter, the one who vanished in 1986.
Wow. So they finally got their answer after all these years.
They did, but in a way, that resolution just brings up more questions, doesn't it? What happened in those missing years? What could have made her erase her past and start over like that? Did she ever, even for a second, think about the family she left behind? The pain they must have been going through?
I don't know. It's heartbreaking. Even now, just thinking about it. And I guess the most unsettling part of it all is that we may never have the answers.
We might not, but it's definitely a story that stays with you, isn't it? A stark reminder that everybody has a past. And sometimes those pasts, well, sometimes they're filled with a lot more darkness than we can ever imagine. Okay, buckle up, because this last one, this one's a real head scratcher.
Well, even better. I love a good head scratcher. What have we got?
This one's like something straight out of a, I don't know, like an Indiana Jones movie or something. We're talking about a mummy. A tiny mummy. Found in the mountains.
A mummy in the mountains. Okay, you've definitely got my attention. I'm all ears.
So picture this. It's 1934. Two gold prospectors are up in the San Pedro Mountains of Wyoming, hoping to strike it rich. Right. But what they end up finding, it's way more valuable than gold, I'd say. They stumble into this hidden cavern and come face to face with a perfectly preserved, incredibly small mummy.
No way, a mummy in Wyoming. That's crazy.
I know. And it wasn't just any mummy. Like I said, it was tiny, only 14 inches tall.
14 inches? Are you serious? What in the world?
They called him Pedro. And I mean, right from the get-go, his discovery just ignited all this speculation.
I bet. Was it actually human? Or I don't know, some unknown creature?
Those were the questions on everyone's minds, for sure. Some people even thought it was an elaborate hoax.
It does sound pretty far-fetched when you lay it all out like that.
It does, but hold on, it gets even weirder. They x-rayed the mummy. And sure enough, Pedro had human bones.
So not a hoax then? But if it's human, I mean, 14 inches tall, that's just unexplainable.
It really is, and that's where the debate starts to get really heated.
Okay, what are the theories? What are we talking about here?
So, you have some experts who believe that Pedro was a baby.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. But how did he end up mummified in a cave.
That part is still a mystery. And some think maybe he was born with a rare condition that made him appear older than he actually was. But then, well, then there's the other side of the debate.
Which is, don't leave me hanging.
The other side, they point to the legends. See, the San Pedro Mountains, they're steeped in Native American lore.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. Stories passed down through generations about the Namaragar, these tiny, powerful beings that supposedly lived up in those mountains.
And Pedro, he kind of became a poster child for those who believe in those stories.
Exactly. He was like dot proof, tangible evidence that maybe, just maybe, the Namaragar, they weren't just a myth.
Makes you think, huh, what if there really is something else out there, something we don't quite understand yet?
Right. And here's the biggest twist of all. Pedro, he vanished.
Vanished. Like, gone. What do you mean?
Gone. Disappeared sometime back in the 1980s. Nobody knows exactly when or how. One day he was there, this tiny mystery, challenging everything we thought we knew, and the next, poof, gone.
You're kidding? That's incredible.
I know. So where does that leave us? Was it Pedro a tragic case, a mummified infant frozen in time? Or was he something more? Something that blurs the lines between, like, myth and reality? Did his disappearance shake the beliefs of those who were so sure he was one of the Namaragar? Or did it make their belief even stronger?
Yeah.
We may never know, and I think that's what's so great about these deep dives, you know?
Totally. We started with a man so desperate to disappear that he went off the grid completely. Then we uncovered his secret life, someone who went to extraordinary lengths to erase their past and build a new one. And finally, we ended with a tiny mummy, a mystery that might just hold the key to unlocking an ancient legend.
It's like peeking behind the curtain of the everyday and realizing just how much mystery and intrigue is hidden right there beneath the surface. All you have to do is start asking questions.
And keep an open mind.
Exactly. So to all of you listening, keep exploring those unanswered questions. Keep seeking out those hidden truths. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one to uncover the next great mystery.